Welcome to this New Nutrition Business podcast, if you're listening to it, and also welcome to the video version, if that's the one you've chosen to go for. It's the first time we've recorded in both formats, so this is a little bit of an experiment, but thank you for being here anyway. Today, I'm going to talk very briefly about a brand that some of you will have heard of called Beyond Meat. It recently released its financial results, and it's an excellent case study of how not to try and build a business, how not to try and enter a new category. And it's a really clear illustration of just how badly thought out the whole plant-based meat alternative efforts have been over the course of the past decade. One day, perhaps, plant-based meat alternatives can become a market, but for now they remain what they always have been, a tiny niche that really only appeals to a very small number of consumers. And what's particularly sad about the case of Beyond Meat and all the other businesses is that it was clear that the things that keep plant-based meat alternatives as niche were still there when Beyond Meat raised billions of dollars to launch its products, and they still haven't gone away today. So imagine if you're working for a company whose chief executive makes big, bold statements. I'm sure you've all worked for someone like that at some stage, about how your business is going to absolutely transform the marketplace and transform the category. Ethan Brown, who's the CEO and founder of Beyond Meat, did this fairly frequently. In 2019, at the Stockholm Food Forum, he stated, quote, "Our mission is to completely replace animals in the food system by 2035. We're absolutely serious about it, and it's doable." In an interview with the MIT Technology Review, he said, "Our goal, to be honest, is to, as quickly as possible, make it economically unsustainable to continue to raise cows. It's not that we have to replace every single thing that people value from a cow. We have to replace enough of the profitable components to make it unprofitable to grow more cows." Very bold, very early 21st century, very hubristic. So how's he been doing with those statements? Well, on March 31st, 2026, the Beyond Meat company released its most recent set of financial statements. Beyond Meat is a company which has been trading, actually selling its product since about 2016. It was set up back in 2012. And its claim to fame is that in that time, it has never once made a profit. In fact, the sales grew during the plant-based is best frenzy that took place from about 2016 to 2020. And then after the COVID year, sales began to decline, and they have plunged compared to where they used to be. In fact, in 2025, the company's losses were almost as big as its sales. Beyond Meat is as far from Ethan Brown's ambitions as it's possible for anyone to get. Each dollar of product that it sold in 2025 cost it $1.95 to make. And that's very impressive. I've personally never run a business that's operated like that. When I ran a business for someone else, if I had produced those kinds of results, I'm confident I'd have been fired inside 18 months. I wouldn't still have been there 10 years onwards, telling everyone that I was still going to change the world. The business has got 1.2 billion of accumulated losses on its balance sheet. Again, that takes a phenomenal talent. And just to show how very far Beyond Meat is from the reality of what humans want to eat and what people actually do in the supermarket, far from disappearing, demand for fresh beef in the United States market has been growing despite price increases. And in 2025, the volume of fresh beef sold was up by 9.9% to $45 billion. And that was despite a 10% price increase. And why is that? Because increasingly consumers, far from being meat reducers, are turning towards foods that taste good, are versatile, fit into lots of recipes and food cultures, and are increasingly recognized not only for their excellent protein content, but because they deliver a whole package of other nutrients. So it's very much downhill all the way for Beyond Meat's sales, whether that's in retail or in food service. Any number of times they've done deals with McDonald's and Burger King and heaven knows who else to sell their burgers, and any number of times those things have failed. On a quarterly basis, the company is now selling less than a third of what it used to sell 5 or 6 years ago. And Beyond Meat is not alone. The entire US plant-based meat market is declining. So the market was worth about $1.4 billion in retail sales back in 2022. It has declined every single year since then. And in 2025, it had fallen to a billion, plus or minus a little bit. And this is particularly impressive because this whole sector, which drew in, what, 50 or 60 companies in the US alone, probably hundreds when you look at all Western markets, it had received $20 billion of investment from venture capitalists and all kinds of other investors. It's probably been the single biggest malinvestment in food industry history. And of course, with the imminent collapse of Beyond Meat, it's producing some of the biggest failures in food industry history. And you may be saying, well, why did they invest so much? And that's a question we ask ourselves as well. And in order to get to the bottom of it, one of the things we did is we hired as an intern, a recently qualified accountant, and she went through all the public statements showing who'd invested what and when and how much. And 20 billion is what we got to. It's probably a much bigger number, but it was really an investment that was a product of people paying attention to what's in the media. So the media was very pro plant-based and pro-plant-based meat alternatives from about 2015. A lot of this, I think we can fairly conjecture, was directly the result of PR, of paid for communications. At the same time, consulting firms made this into their latest hot take, so they were telling everyone this is the future. And of course, university academics. And one of the most important lessons that comes out of the whole plant-based meat market failure is those are three groups that you should never pay any attention to: the media, consulting firms, and university academics. None of them at the time had any evidence to suggest this market was going to grow. And those of us who did understand the market, and just to explain, my business has been involved in plant-based meats actually since the late 1990s. One of our very first customers was a small company making plant-based sausages for vegetarians. And many of our customers have been supplying ingredients into that market for years. And we got to understand both the technology and the consumer as a consequence of being in that world. And it was very clear to us the technology hadn't moved on very much. It was still not very different from the 1980s when this world first appeared. And it was clear that the market wasn't going to meet the expectations of consumers. Now, had all of these people done the sensible thing of operating as niche businesses focused on the most health active, plant-oriented consumers, maybe planned to grow slowly over time, then some of them would have succeeded. But this huge rush to create mass market success, thinking you could jam a plant-based burger into McDonald's, that's a lot to do with having created the failure. It isn't just the US meat substitute market that's declining. It's happening in most markets around the world. Meat substitutes are at best a niche business anywhere, maybe 1 or 2% market share. The biggest one in Europe is the UK. That's a market worth about $700 million back in 2021. In 2025, it had slid to about 500 and something million dollars. Same problem as the US. Products do not perform on taste, they don't perform on texture, they don't perform on nutrition, and they have long ingredient lists. And the interesting thing in recent years is consumers have been telling us more and more they don't want such long ingredient lists. They'd prefer them to be simpler, shorter, easier to understand. But the plant-based meat substitute makers simply chose to ignore all of that information, which was readily available. A few countries, it's kind of hanging on. Germany is a good example. Meat substitutes there. Again, it's niche, but it's not falling as far as we know. Its food culture is really important. The UK, the Netherlands, and Germany have really bad food cultures. I can say that I have relatives in all of those countries. They're markets in which people are used to consuming lots of very processed packaged foods. There isn't the same leaning towards having quality natural ingredients that you find in Southern Europe. So not so difficult for the consumer there to accept products of this sort. Some of you may, of course, be saying, but surely price has got something to do with this. If these products were cheaper, then they would sell better. Well, that, I'm afraid, is a very misleading way to look at markets. In the US, sales of lactose-free dairy products outsell plant-based milks. They outsell them despite being 20% more expensive. Consumers aren't motivated solely or primarily by price. They're motivated by other things. And in the case of lactose-free dairy in the US, that's naturalness, taste, simple ingredient lists, higher quality nutrition. And when people get that, they're willing to pay a premium. So don't let anyone ever tell you that if only meat substitutes were cheaper, they would sell better. The evidence from other categories doesn't necessarily stack up against that. The market leader in Europe is a brand called Quorn, and that's a case study we're going to come back to because that brand has been around for about 35 years, and there were lots of lessons that companies like Beyond Meat could have learned from it, had they chosen to do so. Now, you may be saying, well, it's all very well having hindsight, saying after the event they shouldn't have done this. But again, I'll point out that we did not say this after the event, we said it at the time. We started telling customers in 2017 not to get involved in the whole area of meat substitutes. And the first time we said it in public was 2019. And here's a quote from the website Food Navigator, which I said, given the increasingly intense competitive environment within meat substitutes and consumers' preference for plants that are recognizable as plants, yes, people do actually want to eat real vegetables, not faux burgers, we stand by our belief that this is not achievable. Investors in meat substitutes are likely to be disappointed. So it was very clear, not just to us, but to lots of other people, that humans prefer real food. It's just needed the investment community and the people who got involved in meat substitutes apparently to spend $20 billion to discover that well-known fact. And the failure of plant-based meat substitutes, it's just one part of a continuing failure of the whole world of what's referred to as alt proteins. So creating new types of protein as an alternative to those that come from existing plant-based sources like soy, as an alternative to those that come from animals. The whole concept of alt proteins, it'll be around, but it's going to be a niche business. The big promises that are being made for it are only going to produce disappointment. So for those of you who are not very familiar with it, when Beyond Meat started, they started out with a 23 or 25 ingredient list. This, as I said just now, was a real turn-off for lots of people. It became very quickly apparent to lots of other companies in this field that that was going to be the problem. So there's a brand, a Canadian brand sold in the US called Light Life. It's one of those plant-based alternative brands that's been around since I think the 1980s. And they're admirable as a business because they tried to grow further from where they were, but they were completely honest about what the problems were. The CEO of Light Life, CEO a few years back, said, quote, time and again, what was on consumers' minds in the research was they didn't understand what the ingredients were, and they wanted simple ingredients and not a laundry list of them. And I think Light Life pulled out of that business and focused on being in the meat business after a while. Now, Beyond Meat has not just stuck with one type of product and continued to push it. To their credit, they did try over and over and over again to come up with all types of new products, whether that's breaded chicken tenders, something called plant-based seared tips were sold under the name Beyond Steak. But you can feel the desperation creeping over them as their sales grew and then declined and their losses worsened. And the biggest sign of that desperation was the launch in late 2025 of not a burger, not a sausage, not a chicken tender, but a beverage. Called Beyond Immerse, the company has tried to reinvent itself as a protein company, selling, just a drink, a fizzy drink in a can with some protein and some fiber and some electrolytes. So, who knows? Maybe they're trying to lean into GLP-1. But, it's a really bad sign when a company's invested in a set of categories and done everything in that world, and then they pivot to something completely different. It rarely ends well. And it certainly isn't going to end well in the case of Beyond Meat. So what could have Beyond Meat and all the other people in this world who failed, what could they have done? Well, they could have learned from Quorn. Quorn is really the case study that everyone needs to look at before they look at alt proteins and meat alternatives. It's a business that's been around since 1989, based on a technology from the 1960s. So back in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a panic that the world was going to run out of protein. And Quorn was a business which identified a mycoprotein, a soil fungus, which it figured out how to grow to create an edible, human edible protein. And they launched a whole range of products under their own brand. Again, chicken substitutes, alternatives to beef, and all kinds of other things, created a big range. And they actually did quite well. They became the biggest player in meat substitutes in Europe for quite some time, and they ran very profitably. External events were on their side. There was constant information from the media and from the public health people about the need for people to reduce their meat consumption and the usual associations that are made between that and, say, heart disease and cancer and so on. There were a number of scandals. There was the horse meat scandal about 20 years ago, in which it turned out that certain supermarkets were, I'm sure, without realizing it, of course, selling burgers and lasagnas that contained horse meat. And this is a company which, as well as having the wind in its sails, did everything right for 35 years. They did deliver great taste. They did deliver convenient products. They had a wide product range for every possible occasion. They came up with affordable pricing comparable to meat. They did good marketing. They called themselves a fifth protein. They were honest that there was something different. And they ticked off the box of whatever health concerns mattered most to consumers, which for many years was low in fat and sodium. And yet, naturalness, food culture, and many other factors continued to weigh against it. So Quorn became a successful business, several $100 million of sales, but ultimately its sales plateaued and they began to decline. It is not a mass market success. It's a big niche success in many countries. As of today, its sales are declining and it is operating at a loss after 30 years of profitability. In fact, the company's owner, called Mond Nissen, has written off over $600 million of its investment in the company. So what does it all add up to? There was never any reason for anyone to go out and think that creating plant-based meat alternatives was going to provoke some kind of revolution. That's not just me saying that. That was people who had knowledge of the technology and the consumer. There was a really good case study that showed how to succeed in this field and how to succeed as a specialist, big niche business. But once the investment community got their hands on the idea, they threw $20 billion at it. That enabled an enormous surge of overconfidence, as seen by Beyond Meat, to come along and create businesses, most of which failed. In 2024, for example, there were about a plant-based meat alternative business went out of business probably once every 4 to 6 weeks. It's not happening quite so much now because so many of them have gone. I hope you found this interesting and entertaining. If you'd like more information about the exciting world of food and health, please go to our website, which is www.new-nutrition.com, or message my colleague Michael Davis at new-nutrition.com. Thank you very much for coming along, and I hope you have an excellent day.